to what we might call serious theoretical linguistics, but the question I'm bringing up requires serious consideration from all of us, no matter whether you work in theoretical linguistics or applied linguistics or ELT or any other language, any other aspect of work in language. The question basically can be rephrased in the following manner. Do we have a good understanding of how we learn languages, one or more? And secondly, and perhaps more importantly, how do some people learn it better than others? How do some people learn language in spite of impoverished language background? And finally, what can be done to help children and adults learning language or languages in impoverished backgrounds? There seem to be too many questions, but that's actually only one question with several different aspects. I'll try and raise some, and I'm afraid I don't have answers to offer, but I have questions and I need your advice about how to proceed. But this is definitely a view of language and language teaching. Can you please go to the next? Okay, I wanted to begin with Kabir Das, not because he's central to the paper, but because he's an example to the point. Tagore said while translating 100 selected poems of Kabir Das, that Kabir Das has been the best poet India has produced in the last 1,000 years, which means after Shankaracharya. And Kabir Das, as all of us know, had no formal education, and yet the verbal repertoire that Kabir Das had was as good as any other poet of that time or since then. I can compare him with Tulsi Das, who was learned enough to become the head of a monastery in Varanasi and become a Goswami at the age of 20. Not many people those days would have aspired for that kind of elevation. And if you look at the composition of Tulsi Das and compare it with the composition of Kabir Das, you will find no significant difference in the use of any term from any of the 20 odd languages that were used in urban centers like Varanasi of those days. How does it happen that a person less learned than the person very well learned can have similar output? And how is it that it does not happen all the time with everyone? I think we have inadequate understanding of this question, and let us try and find answers. Next screen. Just an example of what Kabir could do. This is just a random couplet that occurred to me while preparing for this conference. Kabir says in one, his Sakhi, his Bijak, his Shabad, his Bhajan. So I think this comes from his Sakhi. Yeh to ghar hai prem ka, khala ka ghar nahi. Pahle bhuiyan shees dhar, phir baitho ghar maahi. It has words from Arabic of the Bhojpuri, Prakrit. This bhuiyan is Prakrit, khala is Persian, shees again, is a derived form, is a changed form of Sanskrit word, all kinds of things, and the philosophy, underlying philosophy that is there, the profundity of that part. If you compare it with things like couplets of Tulsi Das, Ban Vibhishan Padavritti hai, Si par aap bhaye hain. Tulsi Das says, though arrows are falling upon Vibhishana, but Rama has become the Seeper. Seeper is the shield. That's a Turkish word. Tulsi Das knew Turkish and Sanskrit as well as Kabir did, or put it the other way around. Kabir knew as much Turkish and Sanskrit perhaps as Tulsi did, though Kabir did not have the advantage of education that Tulsi Das had. We can find many examples of that kind, particularly during that period. If you look at poets like Dadu, Nagpurti, or even Guru Nanak, they had very limited or hardly any formal education. Go to the next. So the question is, we know that languages are learned with exposure and motivation, but what's the role of aptitude in it? Are some people more gifted than some others? Are some people less gifted than some others? Is there something called aptitude, or is there nothing called aptitude? And what do we do when we don't have enough aptitude and we don't have enough exposure? Go to the next screen, please. So I am now talking of situations where languages have to be taught and there is very little language in the background. How do we do that as language teachers? That's the challenge. Of late I myself have had some experience of this kind, teaching at some primary schools in my village. The government primary schools are now attended by people hardly by choice but by compulsion. Anyone who can afford it now sends their children to so-called public medium schools, even in villages, even in Bihar, and I'm talking of North Bihar. So in government primary schools, particularly in the rural India or in urban slums, how does language teaching happen? How can we have better exposure, greater exposure to formal language so that children can learn it better and faster? Next. I just wanted to break your monotony. I wanted to put some slides. This what I'm going to tell you of my village in Bihar or of the Chennai City Corporation area slums holds good for lots of North India, lots of rural North India in particular. This is the Ganga at home, but according to certain statistics, between Varanasi and Guwahati is the most underdeveloped part of the world, for which Bhupen Hazarika translated his Assamese song into Hindi. Because it's inhabited by some of the poorest people in the world. Come next. I am talking of this belt, this entire range. Which means practically North, say Eastern UP, North Bihar, a bit of North Bengal, Western Assam, where there is hardly any industrial development, industrial activity. If you look at the night map or Google night map of India, you will find that this stretch is a vast stretch of darkness. Actually, after Delhi until you reach Calcutta, which is the belt of the Ganga, is an underdeveloped belt. And what happens in schools there? What happens in rural areas, in schools in rural areas there? Go to the next. This is my village. This is the Bagmati. It comes from Kathmandu. We had a colleague from Nepal, so I share this with him, and hence my sympathy for that colleague. This river comes directly from under the foot of Lord Shiva, Pashupatinath. Month of May, it is the lean season, but we still have enough water. Next, in August when the river is flooded, it is a full swell. Next, and then it reaches dams, water all over. Building roads is difficult in that part. The rest of India, it costs about 6 crore rupees per kilometer. In that part of the country, it costs much more because you need more bridges per 10 kilometers or per 100 kilometers, etc. So on the whole, the development index is low, and it also shows in absence of facilities at school, in absence of quality of education that the government can impart. Next. So let's look at these schools in a particular village in the district of Darbhanga in Bihar. I am talking of a school, some 5 schools in that village, government primary schools. Nearly 70% children come from Dalit families and 22% from what we call educationally backward families, and the remaining 8% from other economically backward families. The government primary schools are no longer attended by children from families which have a tradition of reading and writing and learning and books and prints. Nearly 90% parents there are daily wage earners, either cowherd, shepherd, or labor in other different ways. Literacy among mothers is as low as 2 to 5%. Among fathers, it is about 10%. Hardly any home has a book. Hardly any home subscribes to a newspaper. Televisions have arrived, but whenever there is power, they watch some Bhojpuri or Hindi film or serial. All those children that I mentioned have never been told a short story by anyone. Schools are understaffed. 10 classes, 226 children, and only 3 teachers. Which room they would go to and which room they won't. Under-equipped. There is no library, no laboratory, no staff, no furniture, no electricity, no nothing. Except midday meals are there. So students do get midday meals. They come at the time of midday meals and leave after midday meals. Most of the children, the teachers are also unavailable. Either they are on election duty or census duty or survey duties of some other kind. So on an average, until we started this project there, the average teaching days were under 100 days per annum. But in the Western school systems, if you look at Google and search, you will find Japan has 240 days per annum. Singapore and USA have over 225 days per annum. Most developed countries in Western Europe, Korea, etc. have over 200 days. National average for India is about 150, with the exception of Kerala. In Bihar, it was under 100 days. In rural Bihar, in 100 days per annum. All I'm trying to tell you is this is a language starved situation. There is little exposure to any formal language, be it Hindi, English, or Maithili, which is what we speak there. Next, please. Just to give you an idea how this so these clippings are just about 30-40 seconds each. So please bear with me, and this is what some people might call a reality show or a reality check. So do watch it. Can you please click one after the other on each of them? Right, okay. Right. This is one of the schools. The principal of the school is an enthusiastic person, and she insists on cleanliness, maintains that sort of thing. There is no furniture inside, no electricity. There wasn't. Now there is. We have done some. Next. This is the English textbook done by. Can you pause? Yeah. Just pause. This is the English textbook done by the government of Bihar for class 3. Okay, please move. Next. Yes. This is This is lesson 1, the first lesson in that book. You see, this is the way we wash our teeth, we wash our face, wash our hand or something like teeth, face, hand, etc. And then similar thing on the other side of other pages. Whether they are okay, whether they are graded properly, we can talk about later. Next. This is the Hindi text. lesson, this is the first lesson, class 3 Hindi textbook. It is एक बार भगवान बुद्ध अपने विद्यार्थियों के साथ राजगीर जा रहे थे, अपने शिष्यों के साथ राजगीर जा रहे थे. You can read it for yourself on the two lines.
For which class is it?
This is class 3. The book is done by State Council of Educational Research and Training, SCERT. Okay? You know, and I have nothing for or against these books. All I'm trying to tell you is giving you a reality check. This is their exposure to the language. The language, Hindi, English, whatever. Please.
Let's say, where are we from?
Go to the next screen. Now I have some children, you know, a random selection of children reading it. We recorded all the 226 in the school, but you know, I'm just. This is you know, this is class 3 textbooks that I showed you, but these children are class 4, which means they are 9 or above, 9 years old. Whether they can read Hindi or English. It's simple, just read one line or 2 lines aloud for our recorder. Please.
किस क्लास में पढ़ती हैं? चौथा क्लास में. पढ़िए. पढ़ के सुनाइए.
We can go on. One may be slightly better than another may be a little less good. But by and large, the situation is like it's not that they cannot read English, they cannot read Hindi either. They cannot read Hindi either. But they have had very few, very limited exposure and practice in reading any kind. It's a language-starved situation. So we went to homes and we surveyed and we found that hardly there, you simply don't expect those families struggling for a living on a daily basis to buy newspapers and journals Some homes have television, but then they watch it for entertainment rather than children's program or, and even if there is children's program, children are not around. In the first place, there is no electricity there even today, so things are difficult. There is little language. What we did was we got these students together and we wanted to start some special classes for them. We found on the first day of the test, which is when we did the recording, that fewer than 26% students, even those who were in class 5 and who were 10-year-old, who had been at school for 5 years, could recognize all letters of the Hindi alphabet. You might have noticed children have had difficulty recognizing Shishyon. They haven't had difficulty recognizing or reading Ek Var, Bhagwan, Buddha, but they had difficulty recognizing Shishyon, though they are in class 4 and 5. And for English, this number is still lower. Fewer than 10% could recognize even all letters. Putting those letters together, THIS is fine, but together it makes this has been difficult. No child could do it, but they could recognize letters. So we thought, okay, if we brought literacy in, maybe they will take care. So we recruited some local teachers. We thought in Chennai we would teach Tamil and English, in Bihar we would teach Hindi and English, and in 2 to 3 years, we have a wonderful story at the end of the picture. The family comes together and we have photograph and we go home. Everything will be lovely, but we had a different experience. And I will talk about that experience a little later. But the volunteer teachers we got from the village and the teachers that were already working there, how good are they? What kind of talent we attract to teaching, especially at the school level in government schools in our villages or cities. Next. We said, okay, please volunteer, please come forward. There will be a little on an area, and 30-40 people came, out of whom we selected 3 retired people, 2 housewives, and 17 college undergraduates. Next. These are some of the volunteers who came forward to teach and who were selected through a test. Next. But teachers own English, and their Hindi is no better. I must assure you, it's not that they were great pundits at Hindi and poor in English. This is their English. We asked them to translate a sentence like "Wakal aayenge," "Wakal aaye." Next. I mean, it's not that the entire village is like that, but the point is these are the people that are there. वो राम भगवान की फौज में जैसे वही लोग थे, उन्हीं से राम भगवान को जीतना था, उन्हीं को लड़ाई जीतनी थी, तो यही लोग अवेलेबल हैं, बाकी लोग तो दिल्ली पटना चले गए। Okay, look at the various spellings of words. Next. We also asked them to write some sentences together, just to check whether they could. And one person wrote about So once again, on the whole, be it school or be it home, it's a language-starved situation. You do not have enough exposure to the kind of language you would like them to learn. It is easy to say, like Lebov, that whatever language they have, it serves for them. Yes, it does serve for them. I have no doubt about that. They have a very healthy, happy life. You saw the children. But that kind of language would not get them a job in Microsoft or even in government departments in Delhi or Patna. There, using cool 10 times for anything other than temperature would not get you a job. IELTS would require you to have a good vocabulary to get 9 on 9, 10 on 10. Similarly, all tests of English or all tests of Hindi would require a good size vocabulary. Therefore, to say that whatever vocabulary they have is adequate for them is a very